It was 3 in the morning. The middle of winter. A storm was raging outside, shaking the windows of a quiet home in North Carolina. Inside, 9-year-old Asha Degree woke up. But she didn't call for her parents. She didn't turn on a light. She packed a backpack. She put on her clothes. And she walked out the front door, into the pouring rain, vanishing into the dark. Hours later, a driver saw her walking along the highway. When the driver slowed down to help, she didn't wave. She ran. She ran straight into the woods, and she was never seen again. A child. A storm. A disappearance that defies logic. And she was just one of 3 Americans whose disappearances still make no sense.
Welcome back. In the world of true crime, we often hear about the cases that dominate the headlines. The ones that become movies, books, and podcasts. But there are shadows in American history where the light hasn't reached. Cases that are searchable enough to be real, but obscure enough that you likely haven't heard the full story. Today, we are looking at 3 specific mysteries. Each one happened in a different decade. Each one in a different part of the country. But they share a terrifying common thread. They defy explanation. These are real, unsolved investigations that have left families waiting for decades. We're going to approach this with respect for the victims and their families. These aren't just stories, they are tragedies. But we need to ask the hard questions. Stick around until the end because case number 3, the story of Asha Degree, will leave you questioning everything you think you know about safety. Let's begin in a place where everyone thought they were safe.
New Haven, Connecticut. January 1998. Yale University. For most people, this setting represents safety, prestige, intellect. It is an Ivy League sanctuary where the brightest minds are supposed to be protected. Suzanne Jovin was 21 years old. She was a senior, brilliant, and on the verge of graduation. On the night of January 21st, she had just finished a draft of her thesis. She left her professor's office around 9:15 p.m. She intended to walk home. It was a route she had walked many times before. The walk should have taken 15 minutes. But Suzanne never made it. Her body was found less than a mile from campus. The brutality of the crime shocked the community. Suzanne had been stabbed 17 times. It was an attack of extreme violence, executed in a matter of minutes. Here is the detail that doesn't make sense. In a high-profile university town, with cameras, students, and security nearby, a killer was able to ambush a student and vanish without a trace. No weapon was found. No witnesses came forward. The investigation took a controversial turn. 4 years, police focus narrowed almost exclusively on one person. Her thesis advisor, James Van der Velde. The theory was personal. Was this a dispute over her work? Was it something darker?
The advisor was eventually cleared. DNA evidence did not match. But for years, critics argued that this tunnel vision allowed other leads to go cold. Was this a random attack by a drifter? Or did someone close to her academic life want her silent?
"27 years of sunsets and sunrises that Jovin never got to see. She was so close to graduating. She was a senior studying political science and international studies at Yale University, and the person who robbed her of that future was never arrested.
A real surprise, a shock, and I was really sorry that the case wasn't solved.
Jim Hadler's lived in this neighborhood since 1990. His house is just yards away from the crime scene, and his memory of that week still stays in his mind.
I remember the detectives coming down the next day, interviewing people and looking for evidence of a murder weapon, basically a knife.
Those detectives working the case included New Haven's original police detective on the murder investigation, Ed Kendall. He met us where Jovin's body was found, hoping somebody watching the story hears him out.
We ask anyone who might have information to please come forward and contact the New Haven Police Department. Law enforcement agencies and civilian people have worked hard on this investigation.
Kendall has since retired from the New Haven Police Department, but he hasn't retired from fighting for answers for Jovin's family. And he's not alone. Other officers also haven't given up hope that this case can be cracked.
We all are in contact. Even though we are retired, most of us, we still talk and try to develop new information for the case.
The case is now being handled by the New Haven State's Attorney's Office. While decades have passed since the case opened, they refuse to give up.
That year in 1998, there were 15 murders in New Haven. All murders were solved and cases closed except this in the murder of Suzanne Jovin.
27 years later, this neighborhood still holds one of the state's biggest secrets.
This one seems to have been remained a mystery.
It's not too late to give her family closure. There's a $150,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest and conviction. That reward could be yours if you come forward. Reporting in New Haven, Celine Air, Fox 61.
It could happen anywhere, even in the most monitored, prestigious environments. Suzanne was careful. She was smart. She was in a safe zone. Today, the case remains open. The New Haven Police Department still asks for help, but the window of opportunity closes with every passing year. What really happened that night on the walk home? We may never know. But while Suzanne's case happened in an elite university, our next case occurred in a quiet Florida town during the most wonderful time of the year. December 1959. Osprey, Florida. The air was cool, and Christmas lights were going up in windows across the state. It was just days before the holiday. The Walker family was preparing for the season. But on December 19th, silence fell over their home. When family members arrived to check on them, they found a scene of horror. The entire family had been brutally murdered inside their own house. This case is almost forgotten today, but it happened the same year as the famous Clutter family murders, the case that inspired In Cold Blood. Yet, while the Clutters became famous, the Walkers faded into obscurity. Why? Perhaps because the answers were even harder to find.
Imagine the investigation. Police were flooded with leads. Over the years, nearly 600 suspects were considered. 600. Drifters, locals, family acquaintances. Everyone was a person of interest.
The investigators found one concrete piece of evidence: a bloody fingerprint. It was lifted from a bathtub faucet handle inside the home. It was clear. It was distinct. It belonged to the killer. In 60 years, technology has advanced exponentially. We can decode DNA from a single hair. We can enhance images from grainy film. But that fingerprint? It has never been matched. The mystery lies in the method. Was this a robbery gone wrong? Nothing of significant value was taken. Was it a personal grudge? The violence suggests anger, but the lack of motive suggests chaos.
I want to ask you something. Pause and think about this. Police found a bloody fingerprint on a bathtub faucet handle. In 60 years, they've never matched it. Do you think the killer was a drifter passing through, or someone the family knew? If it was a drifter, how did they choose this specific home in the dark? If it was someone they knew, why has no one ever confessed?
There are eerie parallels to other famous cases of that era. The timing, the brutality, the total lack of witnesses. It suggests a level of planning that contradicts the randomness of the location. The Walker family deserved justice. Instead, they got silence. The fingerprint remains in a file somewhere, a physical ghost of a person who walked into their home and ended their lives. Both of these cases ended in tragedy that we can confirm. We know Suzanne died. We know the Walkers were killed. But our final case, we don't even know what happened. We don't know if there was a crime at all. And that is somehow even more disturbing. We return to Shelby, North Carolina. February 14th, 2000. Valentine's Day. But for the Degree family, it became a day of eternal heartbreak. At 3 a.m., Asha Degree left her bed. She didn't take money. She didn't take a phone. She packed a backpack. Investigators later recovered the contents when it was found. She took clothes, a sleeping bag, a notebook, items for survival, items for a journey. Outside, a storm was raging. Heavy rain, high winds, temperatures were dropping. Why would a 9-year-old child leave the warmth of her home in the middle of the night during a storm?
This is the detail that doesn't make sense. Children run away from home, yes, but usually during the day, usually without packing survival gear. Asha's actions were calculated. She was deliberate.
She walked. She made it to the highway. A driver saw her. The driver saw a small girl, alone, soaked in rain, walking in the dark. The driver turned the car around to offer help. When Asha saw the car stop, she didn't approach. She ran. She ran off the road and into the woods. That was the last time anyone saw her alive. 18 months later, hikers found her backpack. It was buried, wrapped in a plastic bag to protect it from the elements. It was 26 miles away from her home. Think about that distance. A 9-year-old girl, or someone carrying her pack, traveled 26 miles through rough terrain. Why bury the bag? Why protect the contents if you were abandoning them?
Breaking developments this evening. We are learning brand new details tied to Asha Degree's disappearance. So our team just got our hands on new search warrants a few hours ago. And now for the first time, investigators are saying they believe Asha was the victim of a homicide. WCNC Charlotte's Austin Walker has been sorting through the paperwork and joins us now with the latest.
In my hands, over 100 pages of search warrants released Monday, answering burning questions the community has had for over 2 decades, leaving us one step closer to really understanding what happened to 9-year-old Asha Degree. A cold case over 20 years ago, the disappearance of 9-year-old Asha Degree possibly cracked. According to nearly 100 pages of warrants released Monday, investigators found DNA on a shirt and backpack that belonged to Asha matched 2 people, Russell Underhill and Annalee Dedman. Investigators confirm Underhill was under the care of Roy and Connie Dedman on and off around the time of Asha's disappearance. Underhill lived at a facility owned by the Dedmans before his death in 2004. The other DNA match, Annalee Dedman, Roy's youngest daughter, was just 13 years old at the time of the disappearance. Investigators saying the only connection between the 2 people are Roy and Connie Dedman. This link is what prompted investigators to search the Dedmans' property last week. Right now, the Dedmans are the only people named as suspects in Asha's disappearance. This coming to light just days after Roy Dedman's attorney, David Teddy, told us his client had nothing to do with Asha's disappearance and suggested that someone else might be at the center of the case.
The theories are endless, and they haunt anyone who studies this case. Did she leave to meet someone? Was she being coerced? Was she sleepwalking, a rare condition called somnambulism that can cause complex behaviors? Or was she fleeing from something inside her own home?
Search parties combed the woods. Divers searched the rivers. Helicopters scanned the heat signatures of the forest. Nothing. The impact on the community was devastating. Volunteers still search to this day. The case generates massive debate online. Every few years, a new tip comes in. Every time, it leads to nothing. The disturbing questions remain. Why pack a backpack? Why leave in a storm? Why run from help?
A 9-year-old girl, alone in the dark, in the rain, and we still don't know why.
Unlike Suzanne Jovin, there is no body. Unlike the Walker family, there is no crime scene. There is only a missing child and a backpack buried in the woods. The uncertainty is a specific kind of torture for her family. Hope never fully dies, but neither does the fear.
3 cases, 3 decades, 3 mysteries that don't make sense.
Suzanne Jovin, the Walker family, Asha Degree. They share one thing. They remind us that logic does not always protect us. A brilliant student, an entire family, an innocent child. Anyone can vanish.
These stories aren't just about the crimes. They are about the questions left behind. The why that keeps investigators awake at night. I want to hear from you. Which of these cases disturbs you the most? Is it the violence of the university murder, the silence of the Florida family home, or the mystery of the child in the storm? Comment below. Let's keep these names visible. If you have any information on any of these cases, please contact local authorities. Tips can be anonymous. You could be the one to close a file that has been open for decades. Subscribe for more unsolved mysteries. We shine a light on the shadows so the victims aren't forgotten.